The world is in continuous and increasing rapid changes, and what used to dictate the rules of the past may no longer work. Globalization and the development of new technologies have transformed human society and the way people and countries relate and develop. In the economic field, we can see the shift in economic power migrating to countries and economies that produce and dominate new technologies, information, and knowledge. That's why several Gulf countries, which historically became rich from oil and natural gas, are transforming their economies into technological hubs and knowledge-based economies. Let's find out in this video how technology can be considered the oil of the 21st century and how these Gulf countries are becoming technology hubs. But before that, make sure to subscribe to this new channel to see more videos about economy and interesting economic facts from around the world. After the 1990s, with the advance of the use of the internet and the rapid process of globalization, the economic dynamics that existed in the world until then began to change. Nowadays, and more, societies and economies have become based on the use of technology and information. If in the past, what dictated the economic strength of a country was its natural resources and the use of its workforce, nowadays, with the advancement of robotics and technology, what matters most is the level of knowledge and technological sophistication of an economy. That's why the Gulf countries, which historically became rich with oil and natural gas, are making an economic transition to become knowledge-based economies. We can even say that they are preparing to be the new Silicon Valley, in other words, a region and world technology hub. In case you don't know, the name Silicon Valley is an analogy and comparison with the region located in the United States that is known for being the main technological center of the country. Big companies like Google, Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft have headquarters and research centers there. In the same way that the United States managed to practically dominate the world with its companies and technologies, the Gulf countries are preparing to enter this competition. Owning companies, technological centers, and competitive economies for the 21st century is the new plan for the Arab countries. We know that although oil is still the main energy source in the world and is still one of the most important and profitable economic assets, fluctuations in its price and the migration of the world energy matrix to clean and renewable energy sources can destabilize economies based on and dependent on it. As an example, the Gulf countries that are part of the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, a group of important oil producers in the Middle East, are accelerating their efforts to achieve economic diversification and ensure progress in other sectors of the modern economy. A practical example to understand this whole situation is the case of Saudi Arabia. The country has the second largest oil reserves in the world and is the Arab country with the largest reserves. However, the country is committed to its economic diversification and less dependence on oil. One of the main factors that contributed to this change in its strategic vision and planning were the serious economic shocks that the country faced due to the fluctuation and instability of the oil price. To visualize this instability, just remember the year 2016. In less than 2 years, between 2014 and 2016, the price of oil fell by 68% in its quotation, going from approximately $130 to $42. This sharp drop in the oil price at that time was a big warning about the instability of the commodity. Therefore, in 2016, the Saudi government announced the Vision 2030, an economic program to diversify the country's economy and reduce dependence on oil. This program and strategy of economic diversification in Saudi Arabia is based on several pillars, the main ones being investment in human capital, education, and technology. However, other sectors of the economy are also being encouraged, such as tourism, with the country's sumptuous hotels and airports, and finance, with the Financial Sector Development Program. To understand better the logic behind this diversification policy, we can look at data from the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, which shows that there is a strong link between the diversification of a country's productive activity and its sustainable growth. In other words, economies and countries that have different sources of income and wealth are less exposed to economic cycles and commodity price shocks, and, therefore, have greater predictability and economic stability. In history, there are even successful examples of countries that managed to reduce their dependence on oil and natural resources and migrated their economies to more productive and technological economies, such as Norway and Canada. And before we show you other oil countries that are transforming their economies, don't forget to leave a like on this video so we can bring you more relevant content. Also, if you're interested, check out the link below to see how to start your online business as I did. The Persian Gulf still has other countries that are following the same path as Saudi Arabia. Another important case that we can mention in order to understand the migration of oil-producing countries in the Middle East to technological and modern economies in the case of the United Arab Emirates. The United Arab Emirates is world-renowned for one of its kingdoms, Dubai. The city of Dubai is a perfect example and symbol of the union between the past and the future. The past because it represents the entire origin of the wealth historically generated by oil. Since the United Arab Emirates has the 8th largest oil reserve in the world and the future for all the investments being made in that country. The country is making billion-dollar investment in several areas. From investments in infrastructure such as hotels, airports, financial and technological centers, to the most daring of all, space travel. The United Arab Emirates was the first Arab country and the 5th in the world to make a space trip to Mars. Al-Amal, or Hope, a mission carried out in 2021, definitely marked the country's new era in the 21st century. We can clearly see how the UAE is increasingly evolving in terms of technology and diversifying its economy from oil. Another example and country that is also extremely dependent on oil and generates its wealth through it is Kuwait. The 7th country with the most oil reserves in the world now has a gigantic mission for the 21st century to change its productive and economic structure. Economic data shows that approximately 50% of GDP and about 78% of all exports in the country depend on oil. Furthermore, a World Bank report indicated that Kuwait is the country most dependent on oil revenues. Among all countries in the world, about 80% of government revenues depend on oil activity. For this reason, the country developed the Vision 2035, a national economic plan with the objective of transforming the country. Among the country's main objective is to become one of the main commercial and financial centers in the Middle East, thus investing heavily in the banking and financial sector. All these examples clearly demonstrate how the main oil producers countries from the Persian Gulf are migrating their economies to the future and are increasingly concerned about the new global economic and energy dynamics. Well, now that you know more about how and why Gulf countries are transforming their economies into research-based economies, please help this channel by telling us what other country or economic issues you'd like us to analyze. Let us know in the comments section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our new channel to see more videos about economy and interesting economic facts from around the world. Oh, and don't forget to turn on that notification bell. And we'll see you in the next one. Until next time, goodbye.